Hello, good people. It's Dr. McCoy-Wilson with a lesson on avoiding the second person. So, you may be asking yourself, you think you might know, but you still might not know, what is the second person? Well, the second person is a pronoun, and it is the word you, and that is Y-O-U. What does a person pronoun mean? That might be the next question that you're asking yourself. Well, this term comes from the set of pronouns called personal pronouns. And the personal pronouns are I, as in the first person singular, we, the first person plural, you, that pesky second person that you are to avoid at all costs, and then he or she or it, which is the third person singular, and then they, the third person plural. Those are the personal pronouns. So the next question is probably, well, why should I avoid the second person? A few reasons. Writers use the third person objective voice in academic writing unless otherwise instructed. And that otherwise instructed is when we're using the second person voice as is generally understood as a direct address to the audience. And a lot of times that direct address to the audience is reserved for some creative writing exercises. It's also reserved for social media, which has become all the rage to use in social media posts, blogs, and vlogs. So here are some tips for avoiding the second person. First, just use the third person instead. Words like anyone, someone, those. Of course, we know some of those person pronouns or personal pronouns, they, he, she, and it. Use the indefinite pronoun, one. Sometimes the indefinite pronoun seems like a very bygone era pronoun or seems far too formal for the academic voice that you're adopting in the piece. So there are other tips. Here we go. Avoid pronouns altogether. Instead, use nouns. Refer directly and specifically to the group that you are referencing in the paper. People, organizations, Americans. Or if you're talking about a group of people outside of the U.S., be specific to that group. You could be referring to a community. Be specific to the exact community that you're referring to, or society at large, and speaking in general terms. Here are some examples on how we can avoid pronouns altogether. So here are two sentences, and one of those sentences is using that pesky second pronoun. So here we go. Organizations that hire bilingual employees discover many benefits. Instead of the second person construction of the same sentence, your organization will discover many benefits from hiring bilingual employees. The first choice is generally the best choice for academic writing. Of course, there are many ways to express this same thought, but this one is just one example of how to do so without using the second person. Here's another way of avoiding pronouns altogether. Freedom means that people could do as they see fit, instead of freedom means that you do as you see fit. The first example is one way to avoid that second person. Use the passive voice. What? Use the passive voice? Wait, isn't that something that English professors tell students to avoid at all costs? Yes, generally it has been, but the passive voice has its place. It isn't always a bad stylistic choice. In certain types of academic writing, like research, scientific research, social science research, theses, and dissertations, the passive voice is the ideal stylistic voice. So let's look at an example. Medicine should be taken when doctors prescribe it, instead of you should take medicine when the doctor prescribes it. As you can see here, the first example is a more academic stylistic choice than the second example. So that's it. That should sum it up, everyone. Happy writing.